Your bird bath may be perfectly clean. The water may be fresh. The bowl may be full. And yet, the birds ignore it. You've probably seen this happen before. You set out a beautiful bird bath. You place it in the yard. You keep the water clean. You wait and wait. And somehow the birds never seem as interested as you expected. Or perhaps they visit once, twice, then stop coming altogether. Most people assume the explanation is simple. The bird bath is in the wrong place. The water is too warm. The birds found a better source nearby. And sometimes those explanations are true. But surprisingly often, they miss something much more important. Because birds do not experience water the way humans do. Humans say water. Birds see information. That difference changes everything. What makes this fascinating is that a bird can approach two bird baths that appear almost identical to us and strongly prefer one over the other, even when the water is equally clean, even when the location seems nearly the same, even when a human observer cannot see any meaningful difference at all. For years, bird lovers have noticed this behavior. A perfectly good bird bath sits unused. Meanwhile, another source of water nearby attracts constant activity. At first glance, it makes no sense, until you begin looking at the situation from the bird's perspective. Because for a bird, water is never just water. Water is a source of information about safety, information about visibility, information about movement, information about what might happen next. And some of those signals are hidden in plain sight. The remarkable part is that birds often react to these signals instantly, long before they land, long before they drink, long before a human realizes there was anything unusual to notice. From your perspective, the water looks exactly the same. From the bird's perspective, it may be telling an entirely different story. The question is, what are the birds seeing? Because whatever it is, they seem to understand it immediately. And once you learn to see water the way birds do, you'll never look at a bird bath the same way again. The first thing to understand is that birds are not simply looking for water. They're evaluating risk. Every time a bird approaches a pond, a puddle, a stream, or a backyard bird bath, it faces a problem that humans rarely think about. Water attracts life, but it also attracts danger. A bird drinking from a water source is vulnerable. Its attention is divided. Its escape options are reduced. And for a few critical moments, survival depends on making the right decision. This is why birds often spend more time evaluating water than actually using it. Researchers studying bird behavior have observed that many species inspect a water source before landing. They circle. They watch. They pause nearby. Sometimes they leave without touching the water at all. From a human perspective, that behavior can seem strange. The water is clean. The bird is thirsty. Why not land? Because the bird may be gathering information, and much of that information comes from what surrounds the water. The visibility of nearby cover, the openness of the area, the distance to the nearest branch, the availability of escape routes. To us, a bird bath may look beautiful in the middle of an open lawn. To a bird, it may feel exposed, a place with no immediate refuge if danger appears. This is where many bird baths unintentionally fail. Not because the water is wrong, because the environment around the water sends the wrong message, and birds are remarkably sensitive to those messages. But this is only part of the story, because some bird baths still remain unpopular even when cover is nearby, even when escape routes exist, even when everything appears ideal, which suggests that birds may be reading something else, something hidden in the water itself. This is where the mystery becomes far more interesting, because birds don't simply look at water the way humans do. They see patterns, movement, reflections, visual information that can completely change how safe a water source feels. And some of those signals may be visible to birds long before a human observer notices anything unusual. The question is, what exactly are they seeing when they look at the surface of the water? Because the answer may explain why two bird baths that appear identical to us can feel completely different to them. The answer is not that birds see better water. It's that they see more information in the water. This is the hidden part of the story. that most people never hear about. When humans look at a bird bath, we usually notice one thing: water, a simple source of drinking and bathing. But birds are often evaluating something much more complex: the surface. Researchers have found that many bird species pay close attention to visual cues before approaching water. Not because they're interested in the water itself, because the surface can reveal information about safety. A still surface reflects the world around it: trees, sky, branch, movement. And birds are constantly reading those reflections. Imagine standing in front of a mirror. The image changes the moment something moves behind you. Water can do the same thing. To a bird, the surface becomes an extra set of eyes, a way to gather information about the environment before committing to a vulnerable position. This is where things become fascinating. Many birds are especially attracted to water that moves slightly, not necessarily because it is cleaner, because moving water often provides additional information. Ripples catch attention. Tiny disturbances signal activity. Flowing water can indicate freshness. And in nature, fresh water is often safer than stagnant water. What appears to be a decorative feature to us may be a survival signal to a bird. This helps explain a mystery that confuses many backyard bird lovers. Two bird baths can contain equally clean water. They can sit only a few feet apart, yet one attracts birds constantly while the other remains nearly empty. The difference may not be the water at all. It may be the information the surface provides. This is the scientific reveal behind a behavior that seems irrational to humans. Birds are not simply looking for a place to drink. They're evaluating a source of intelligence, a place where reflections, movement, visibility, and escape opportunities come together into a single decision. And that decision often happens before the bird ever touches the water, which explains something many people have experienced. The birds weren't ignoring the bird bath. They were studying it. And what happens next depends entirely on what that surface tells them. The good news is that the birds were never rejecting your bird bath. At least, not in the way most people imagine. They weren't criticizing the design. They weren't deciding they disliked your yard. And they certainly weren't refusing water because they were being difficult. They were responding to information. The same way they always have. The same way wild birds have survived for millions of years. Every approach to a water source involves a decision. Every landing carries risk. Every moment spent drinking or bathing requires trust. And trust, in the natural world, is built from information. Can the bird see approaching danger? Can it escape quickly? Can it understand what the environment is telling it? The more clearly a bird can answer those questions, the more comfortable it becomes. This is why small changes can make such a big difference. A nearby branch, a patch of shrubs, a gentle dripper creating movement on the surface. Features that seem minor to us can completely change how a bird experiences a source of water. But perhaps the most fascinating part of this story is what it reveals about birds themselves. Birds are not simply reacting to the world. They're constantly interpreting it, reading signals, comparing patterns, making decisions based on information most humans never notice. And nowhere is that more obvious than at the water's edge. What looked like hesitation was often investigation. What looked like avoidance was often evaluation. The birds weren't ignoring the bird bath. They were trying to understand it. And once the information feels right, something remarkable happens. The visits become more frequent. The bathing becomes more relaxed. The water becomes part of their daily routine. So the next time you see a bird pause beside a bird bath, remember this: it may not be looking at the water at all. It may be reading the story the water is telling. And once you learn to see that story through a bird's eyes, you'll never look at a simple reflection the same way again. Have you ever noticed birds choosing one water source while ignoring another that looked almost identical? Tell us what you've observed in the comments. And if this changed how you think about bird behavior, subscribe to Backyard Bird Mind and share it with someone who loves watching birds as much as you do.